Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you all for attending this evening. We'll get the meeting started for the Reston Planning and Zoning Committee on August 18th, 2025. Time is 7:32. We have a quorum, and we're going to hear from Cooley on the RTC next. If you can, I don't know who's presenting. Aaron, are you the presenter today?
Hey, good evening, everybody. Actually, Matt Bonifant with BXP is here this evening, and he's going to be presenting as the applicant for the case.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate the clarification. So why don't we go ahead and get started, Matt, and then we'll go from there.
Great. All right. Well, thanks everybody for hearing us again this evening. This will be the third meeting that we have come to with this phase of the application, phase 2 being the second phase of the project. We were before you in January with a full submission, and then we met with a subcommittee specifically on stormwater. There were a number of questions about that back in April, and here we are in August, ahead of a scheduled Planning Commission hearing date in September. And you all do not have Mr. Looney this evening to throw darts at. You'll have to do that to Aaron and I. But I believe Mark is moving his eldest into college over the course of the next week or so. And so he was not able to join tonight. So we'll do our best to soldier on without him. Joining me tonight, Aaron Frank from Cooley, who spoke a second ago, as well as Carolyn Sponza, who is a principal at Gensler. They are the master planning architect for the second phase of the project, and can answer any design-related questions that come up during the discussion. Kevin Feline from Galloway is our transportation engineer or traffic engineer, and has been with the project for going on about 10 years now, since the original entitlements for the first phase of the project, as well as Dominic Barbaras from Urban, the civil engineer. So that rounds out the applicant team. And Aaron, with that, I'll ask if you wouldn't mind just sharing your screen. And
Yeah,
I
sure
am
thing.
Matt Bonifant with BXP.
Oh,
And I
Aaron,
actually
I'm gonna have
noticed.
to. Yes, sorry, Aaron. I'm gonna have to let you share your screen. 1 second. Sorry.
Ah,
You should be able to do so now. Okay.
terrific. So our agenda and presentation is relatively brief this evening. As I mentioned, this is the third time we've come before the group in a couple of different capacities. So our meeting objectives are to just update the committee on where we are in the rezoning process. We've got a couple of slides to remind everyone what this application is about. And then there were what I would characterize as 4 key takeaways from the January meeting that we were asked to look at. And so we've prepared a few slides to talk about those 4 action items and how we addressed those comments. And then with that, we'll turn it over to the committee and are happy to answer any questions that any of the members have. So just to talk briefly about the rezoning process and the plan itself. As a refresher, it's a 22-acre site. We're immediately between the now open Reston Town Center Metro Station and the existing Reston Urban Core. The original zoning application for the entire 22-acre site was approved with P&Z committee approval back in 2018. And with this application, what we are doing is bringing forward the PRC plan simply for phase 2. Aaron has on the screen here a slide that I use in almost every one of my presentations on the project. And what it is intending to show is that the things that we believe at BXP have made Reston Town Center so successful are the urban grid of streets. And so from a master planning perspective, what we have done in the first phase of the project that is now complete and are doing or will be doing in the second phase of the project, once we get through our rezoning application, is extend that urban grid of streets from the urban core down to the metro station and Sunset Hills Road. And so all of the dark blue arrows that you see are roadways, really intending to stitch Reston together, the urban core and into the next phase. And then where you see the lighter blue dashed lines, those are pedestrian and vehicular connections. The pedestrian connections are what span over the W&OD trail, and are pedestrian bridges that we have actually constructed. And then the white dashed line is intended to be the comprehensive plan's recommended extension of Library Street over the W&OD trail. And so we share this image in almost all of the presentations that we give, as I mentioned, because we think this is so paramount to what has made Reston successful and what has really guided us in the master planning of RTC Next from the urban core. And then Aaron, if you go to the next slide. This image here, if you go back just one, what we've done, and this was done very purposefully, is stitched in the original zoning approvals to the aerial to show what was approved back in 2018. And you can see that there are 8 development blocks spread across those 22 acres labeled A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and J. For some reason, we left out H and I early in the planning process. But this was the plan that was originally approved. And then Aaron, if you toggle to the next screen, what we're bringing forward with the PRCA for phase 2 is what you see on the screen here. And if you toggle back and forth a couple of times, the key point I want to make here is that there's not much that has changed from a planning perspective, with the exception of 3 really key elements, all of which were Gensler's ideas during the master plan, the reevaluation of the master plan, if you will. The first is that block G, which in the original zoning approvals was this massive super block. It has been bifurcated with the extension of Opportunity Way from the east-west direction, and now terminates on Agility Street at block J. And so that massive super block G, which was originally intended to be office and maybe like a convention center sized hotel, is now 2 more modest blocks, still an office building on G1. And as point number 3 raises on the screen, and I should mention, none of this is new information from our January presentation. This is just a sort of level set where we are with the plan. But as we mentioned in January, block G2 represents a shift in the location of the future performing arts center. Originally, it was intended to be on block J. With the bifurcation of block G, there was an opportunity to move the performing arts center onto the Central Park, which is the key organizing feature in the project. That Central Park hasn't changed with this application, but we think there's a real opportunity for events and programming that's happening in the Performing Arts Center to be able to expand and take advantage of the proximity to the Central Park. And so felt like that was a more appropriate location. And it puts the Performing Arts Center closer to the metro station, which we also felt like was a benefit to the Performing Arts Center. So that's the third change that we made with this application. The second being then the shift of Agility Street slightly further to the west. And the reason that we did that is it allowed block E and F to be equal distance in width and really, really efficient from a residential apartment planning and unit layout perspective. And so that's really it. The uses and their configuration beyond the Performing Arts Center location haven't changed. The overall density on the site has actually come down with this application. There are slightly fewer residential units than what we had originally entitled. There is a little bit more office, but on the whole, there is an overall reduction in the amount of density that we are entitling with this PRC. Here is an organization of the uses. Everything you see in blue are intended, the primary uses are intended to be office. And we orient those to the south to take advantage of the visibility from the Dulles Toll Road. In yellow, you see the residential uses. Those are all oriented to the north to take advantage of the Northern Virginia Regional Parks WNOD Trail. We feel like that is a huge benefit to the site. And so organizing those residential uses proximate to the trail felt appropriate from a master planning perspective. And then now in the heart of the project, we have our AC Hotel, which is built and operating on Block C. And flanking that on the east side of the Central Park will be the Performing Arts Center. And those two uses, we feel like with retail at the ground plane, really become sort of the heart of this project, if you will. And so that's where we landed from a use perspective. As I mentioned, none of this is really different from the original zoning approvals, with the exception of the Performing Arts Center and that bifurcation of Block G. So that's sort of where we are from a timing and a planning perspective. I should mention, or maybe I already did, we do have a planning commission hearing date scheduled for September. I believe it's the 17th. And then if that is successful, we'll be going to the board, a month or so thereafter. And so we're before you today in hopes of seeking the P&Z committee's approval. As I mentioned, when we were here in January, there were 4 sort of key takeaways from that meeting. The first was the need for a better explanation on stormwater management, which we think we successfully accomplished at our meeting on April 4th. And I'll talk about that, and Dom will help me in a minute. The other thing that we heard was that there was really additional character information needed in the second phase of the project to better explain what was happening in the public realm and along the WNOD trail in phase 2. The third thing that we heard was it was really, really important that FCDOT and VDOT be coordinated in their comments as it related to transportation improvements. We discussed in January the aerial bridge that's planned over Sunset Hills Road and the need, the regional need for that to be part of this application. And then the last thing that we heard was the need to be out in the community sharing information about the plan and seeking that input. And so we've got updates on each of those items, which I can talk about in a little bit more detail. The first of which being stormwater. Aaron, you want to move ahead? Oh. So as I mentioned, and Dom can jump in, and if there are any questions, I probably can't answer them, but that's why Dom is here. We met with the subcommittee of the P&Z to specifically talk about stormwater on April 4th. One of the things that was asked of us was to clarify how much water we are retaining and how much water we are detaining with this application. One of the things that we spent a lot of time talking about, and we can get into again tonight if there are further questions, is that the way that this application and the way that the construction has been phased on this project, most of the stormwater management is already baked, if you will. We are 50% of the way through the completion of these 8 development blocks. And because there was an existing wet pond on the west side of the site where we started the construction, we had to replace that before really we could do anything or deliver any of the buildings on this site. And so with the construction of the 2 office buildings that are occupied by Fannie Mae and Volkswagen, we built a 2 million gallon stormwater vault on the north side of a below grade parking structure. And what that did was really set in place how water quantity was going to be managed on this site for the entirety of the 22 acres. And so we spent a lot of time in April talking about that. As it is indicated on the screen, we've had very similar conversations with county staff through our zoning process. And right now, there are no outstanding comments as it relates to our stormwater management strategy.
Matt, can I make a quick comment?
Of course.
So back in April, when we planned the subcommittee meeting, because we knew it was a very detailed and technical discussion, we invited any member of the P&Z who wanted to join that meeting. And then whoever said yes, we then, I believe we planned around everyone's schedule to get everyone that had wanted to attend to join that meeting. So just as a reminder, that had been opened up to the entire P&Z committee. And Lynn, I see your hand. Lynn, I see your hand is up. Do you want to speak now, or can you wait till the end?
Yeah, thank you for acknowledging me, John. I thought that Matthew was at the end of his presentation and I had a question, so I'll save it until the end. Thank you.
All right, you can be first. All right, thank you.
I'll reiterate, Dom could not be more excited to talk about stormwater management tonight. So if anybody that wasn't at the meeting on April 4th has a question, he's teed up and ready to go. All right.
I guess I have a question
Sure.
then, and I was not able to attend the April 4th meeting, and that's totally fine. I know the new comprehensive plans for a full 1 inch of stormwater detainment. I also know that it can be challenging in these urban environments for various reasons. And so could you comment on that, please, Dominic?
Sure, yeah. So, we're, as shown on the screen, we're able to get to 0.72 inches. And, Matt kind of touched on it. The phase 1 portion of the site, is mostly built already and designed a couple years ago, back when this 1 inch piece wasn't implemented in the comprehensive plan. So what we did was we're taking credit for the phase 1 portion of the site as well as the phase 2 portion of the site to get to 0.72 inches of the runoff being retained on site. And then again, as Matt has already kind of touched on, the vaults are the vault is massive on the phase 1 site, and the phase 2 site is draining through phase 1 to the outfall. So we're detaining the rest of it. And we have a comp in the plan that shows the comparison of the pre-developed flow versus the post-developed flow, and we're reducing it by about 85%. So we're detaining that rest of it there. So that's how we're complying with that comp plan goal, the 1 inch, and detaining the rest of it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Tammy, do you have a question on stormwater?
Yes, I do. Dominic, we've had some hellacious storms. And I think the thing that's imperative for people to understand is what we thought was our climate in this area has changed with much more fierce storms than we've been accustomed to. So we talk about a 2-year storm or a 10-year storm. We've had numerous 100-year storms. So my question is, have you monitored your 2 million plus gallon vault during some of these hellacious things when in fact none of the phase 2 changes have been made yet? Have you measured how that vault is taking over for the stormwater pond that was eliminated?
Yeah, Tammy, I'll jump in and answer the question as our our BXP engineers are charged with maintaining the vault as well as the discharging pumps, which are all on emergency battery, or excuse me, emergency generator backup, to control the discharge flow off site. That is an extremely active management and maintenance program with routine checks, not only of the pumps themselves, but of all the Filterra devices. We have, I think, four jellyfish structures that all sit on the Block D site that are now active and filtering stormwater. We've got annual maintenance, routine inspection and maintenance agreements set up in place as well. So I would characterize the management of the system as very active, which is not really answering your question. But it gets me to this point, which is that if there was a water quantity issue as a result of some extreme storms, we would absolutely know about it, and would have been talking about it, and it would be something that was on my radar, and it has not been. So I suspect that the system is working exactly as Dom and Urban designed it.
Well, I'm no doubt that it was designed for when it was designed, that was the case. We've changed, that the climate has changed, and that's what I want to know. We're talking about a huge number of acres that are now going to be impervious. So you're not only going to have your phase one, you're going to have phase two, which is bigger than phase one. And that's my concern, is the vault sufficient for both? Already you've said it's less than 3/4 of an inch versus the required inch. That was, our climate keeps getting worse as far as these storms are going, and I don't see signs of abatement. And that's my concern, is the $2 million gallon vault sufficient for both phases? We're already shy of 1/4 of an inch. So that's a legitimate question, and one I would like more information on. Like, how much of the vault filled up during one of these suckers before there's double the impervious.
Well,
how does it work? I'm sure it works. Nobody's going to, Boston Properties isn't going to have a crappy vault. I get it.
That's true. There's 2 points that I would make to your comments. The first is that I'm not certain that we are increasing our impervious area. We can double check that and follow up. But the phase two site is developed. The government office buildings have been in operation for 30 years, and the site for phase two will be removing those and the impervious area associated with that to then construct this phase of the project. The other point that I would make, and then we talked about this in April as well, is that with this application, we are replacing the dry pond, which is, you can actually see on the screen just outside the right limit of the right there, if everybody can see Aaron's cursor. We're replacing that dry pond with a stormwater vault as well.
Okay.
So
thank
Anything
you.
else? Tammy, Lynn, do you have a question on stormwater? Are you good for now?
Actually, if we're talking about stormwater, I did notice in the placemaking portion of the application that you are using segmental concrete pavers. And if those are installed properly, they're on a bed of sand, and it adds to the perviousness of the groundwater that's going through, or the runoff rather. But I don't know. I couldn't quite understand how much of the site was going to be dedicated to the the pavers. And then my questions, I have the same question that Tammy had, that, we are having, increased incidents of 100-year storms. And, is this plan going to suffice by the time that it's implemented, given the trends that we're seeing in climate change?
Dom, I don't know if you have the answer to the question on the impervious paver.
No, they're pervious. They should be pervious.
I'm sorry, on the pervious pavers, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think just for the purposes of what we include in the zoning in this rezoning plan, I think we just assumed all the sidewalk areas were impervious. So if those pavers are more pervious, that's good news.
Yeah.
Which would mean that what we assumed for our impervious area is actually going down if that's the case for those more pervious pavers. So.
You know how many locations they're used in?
I don't know off the top of my head. I have to pull up the landscape plan to kind of see if those are spelled out somewhere. Matt, I don't know if you know, Matt.
I don't think we have any pervious pavers. I'm scrolling through to see. Lynn, you thought you saw it in the application or in the set?
Yes, I did. It was in the Gensler portion of the plan, I believe, for landscape.
I think maybe you're referring to landscape page 7. There were some representative images on there of materials.
Yeah, thank you.
There are unit pavers shown on that page, but I don't think that they're intended to be pervious unit pavers.
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Carolyn, for the clarification. Okay.
And I'll mention
Thank you.
there are a couple items in the plan set also that they have like different hatching legends that refer to bioretention filters and rainwater harvesting as well. So there are some different techniques that are involved besides, your very traditional stormwater detention.
I appreciate the clarification.
Yeah, thank you. Jeremy, I see your hand is up for.
Yeah, I actually had a question about heard somebody say that there was a 1-inch requirement for retaining an inch of stormwater, and I know there's definitely a significant difference between retaining and detaining. Can you clarify what the actual requirement is?
Sure.
Aaron, Dom, you can clarify, but I don't think it's a requirement. I think it's a recommendation from the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, it's a comprehensive plan goal.
Thank you. Goal.
Yeah, and so it says, I actually have it pulled up because I like to read the language just straight from the comp plan. It says, if on a given site, if the development with an intensity of 1.0 FAR and greater, retain to the extent feasible the first inch of rainfall on site through infiltration, evapotranspiration, and/or reuse. If on a given site the retention of the first inch of rainfall is demonstrated not to be fully achievable, the portion of the first inch of rain that cannot be retained should be detained and gradually released. Implement all available measures to the extent practical to support this goal for retention or mixed retention and detention of the first inch of rainfall.
Okay, got it.
So we're able to retain 0.72 inches, and we're detaining the remaining of that 1 inch.
Okay. All right.
So,
All right.
yeah.
So close to the goal, but doing as intended with the rest. Okay, got it. Yeah, I did the math on it real quick, and your 2 million gallons is 3 Olympic swimming pools worth of water. So
It's a lot of water.
pretty good amount of water.
All right, thank you. Any other questions on stormwater before we move on? Thank you, Matt.
So the next thing that we heard at the January meeting was the need for additional character information, just with what's happening in the public space. And so on the screen here are just some representative examples of the type of information that we have provided in the application. Tammy sort of referenced earlier the size of our rezoning application. I think it's close to 100 pages. About a third of those pages are dedicated to streetscape information, open space character images, and other information intended to illustrate the quality of the public space that we intend to create here. What I would say is the hallmark of what's planned for phase two is really a consistency in the type of materiality, tree spacing, streetlight spacing, location of park benches, trash can, all of the placemaking elements that were provided in the first phase of the project, which is now constructed, being replicated in the second phase. And so Carolyn just mentioned it, but we have a page at the end of our application representing the type of material that will be used in all of the open space in phase two, including streetlights, fitness equipment, as I mentioned, trash cans, benches, etc. And that is in addition to and supplementing call it 30 plus pages of character information that's provided throughout the set. And then the last two comments that we heard in January were, the need to be coordinating with VDOT and FCDOT as it related to road improvements, specifically along Sunset Hills Road. What you're seeing is the potential pedestrian bridge over Sunset Hills Road, which we believe we've been successful in potentially securing road fund credits for, which will be important in supporting that funding for that public improvement. We are proposing a 14-foot shared use path along Sunset Hills Road that would preclude the widening of Sunset Hills without impacting the level of service from a transportation perspective that exists out there today. That coordination, I'll just be frank, is ongoing between VDOT and FCDOT. But we think we have the right people involved in the application to ensure that that is, in fact, what gets constructed out there. I know the supervisor's office is very supportive of the improvements that we're proposing along Sunset Hills. And so I think we're going to get to the right place there. That was not without a number of meetings and a lot of hard work by both Aaron and Kevin, but we're rapidly getting close to the right place there. And then, unless there are immediate questions about that, I'll mention then to the outreach to the local community. We met with the RTCA and residents from a number, I think a half a dozen homeowners associations back in April, who provided their support of the application as well, many of whom are very excited to see the completion of the project. That would just add. And so, and happy to open it up to questions here in a minute. But again, just to sort of reiterate, this is the completion of an entitlement effort that was really commenced in 2017, initially approved in 2018, and has three key master planning and placemaking related improvements to it. We do have updated proffer commitments as a result. And think that this is overall an improvement to those original approvals, albeit very modest, sort of in change. And we're anxious to hear the discussion tonight on our way to the Planning Commission in the middle of September and the board thereafter. And so with that, John, if it's okay to you, we're happy to start to answer any questions.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Matt. And, you know, I think when you go to Reston Town Center, you can see the high caliber development that BXP has done over the years and demonstrated a commitment to that. And I think that's appreciated by the community. It's a great development that many look at as an example for the future. So I think you've done a good job of establishing your reputation. And so I'll open it up to questions. Lynn, you originally had your hand up. Did you want to go first, or do you want to defer to Tammy?
No, if Tammy doesn't mind, I would love to go first. I got a couple of items that I'd like to get answered, if possible. One of the things that I was noticing in this plan, and it really came as a surprise to me, was that I recall that we were originally talking about Block J as the performing arts venue. I see that in this plan it is changed to G2, and I'd really like to get just an explanation of kind of how that came to fruition.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And we did talk about that in January. And so none of this will be new information from then, but just to reiterate a couple of points. So when we shifted Agility Street further west to equal widths on blocks E and F, it presented an opportunity that allowed, well, doing that as well as bifurcating the super block G. It allowed for a new development site really in the heart of the project. And so we started thinking about maybe that was a more appropriate place for the future Performing Arts Center. But we didn't want to do that knowing that Grimm and Parker had gone through the feasibility study. I'm going to forget the year that occurred, but some years ago. And so what we did, we BXP asked Gensler to take the Grimm and Parker study and go through all of the programmatic elements that were recommended coming out of that, which all had square footages associated with them, and see if it was even going to be possible to move them from Block J to Block G2. And I'll tell you, it was purely coincidence that Block G2 was almost exactly the same size and orientation of the former Block J. And so Gensler actually took that through what I would consider to be a conceptual, almost early schematic design level, and really what I would call a proof of concept, that what Grimm and Parker ultimately generated as part of their feasibility study, which was the result of that public process, could be shifted from Block J to Block G2. So knowing that, we started to think about like whether or not it actually made sense for the Performing Arts Center to move from J to G2. And as I was mentioning earlier, the opportunity to have events taking place in the Central Park that had a synergy with the Performing Arts Center, or vice versa, events that were happening in the Performing Arts Center that may want to spill out into the Central Park, was more possible if the Performing Arts Center was immediately adjacent to the park. The other thing that happens is that there's now visibility, like direct line of sight visibility from the metro station to Block G2. It is closer to the metro station than Block J. That's a little bit on the margin because Block J was relatively close as well, walking distance, of course. But again, just sort of another benefit. And then when you think about the energy that a public performing arts center can create, along with the energy of a hotel and ground floor retail and the Central Park, it all sort of creates the heart of this project, which we really believe in. And so for those reasons, we sort of put all of that together and went and met with the supervisor's office and said, Supervisor Alcorn, do you agree? Like, does this seem to make sense to you? And it was something that he thought was a good idea and was supportive of as well. So that's sort of the history behind how that happened. And so something that we feel really good about as a positive outcome of sort of reevaluating the master plan.
Okay, I really do appreciate that explanation. It answers a lot of questions that I had. So I'm noticing in the proffer document that so the final paragraph in 41, it says, by proffering to convey Block G2 to the Board of Supervisors and in lieu of either constructing or providing separate funding for one or more athletic fields. So that's in lieu.
Yes.
The applicant fully satisfies the comprehensive plan's expectations for the provision of recreation facilities to serve future residents and tenants of Reston and the proposed development, and the applicant will have no further obligation in this regard. I kind of have an issue with that. You know, I don't know that, you know, by doing the Performing Arts Center, that it relieves the applicant of, you know, requirements for athletic fields or other, but I think I'd like to leave that open for the committee to consider. So I'm going to move on from the Performing Arts Center and get into a question regarding the parking model that you're planning for the non-residential portion. Yeah, we are, or at least I am interested in understanding if this is going to replicate the paid parking model that is currently being used at Reston Town Center, which has, I believe, had a detrimental effect on the number of patrons that frequent Reston Town Center. So my question is what the plan is from a paid parking perspective.
Sure. So phase 2 of RTC Next will be paid parking just like phase 1 is today. And the urban core of the town center is today as well. The specific system that will be used is to be determined. You know, technology in that space evolves pretty quickly. But we're using a traditional gated system in phase 1 right now. So to be determined on the type of system. What I can share about paid parking in Reston and sort of the patronage of the urban core, the more historic portion of the town center, is that, you know, retail sales volumes are above pre-pandemic levels in the town center. They're pretty high above those pre-pandemic levels, believe it or not. And while, you know, there was certainly a challenge moving to the type of paid parking platform that we went to, that has not materially impacted the number of events that we're having, the patronage of the events, or the retail sales that we're experiencing there.
Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate that. That concludes my questions, John.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. Tammy, I know you sort of had your hand up, put it down to maybe defer to Lynn. Do you want to go next, or do you want me to just, are you okay if I just go in order?
Oh, you're muted, Tammy.
I have two parts, John, and I'll do this bitch thing first and then ask questions later. This plan set, the part from urban has, unless I'm nuts, and I've asked somebody else to look at it and they say, no, they don't see it either. There are, on the urban pages, there are no identifications nor labels about what we're looking at. So to discuss anything from urban is like, how do you do that when you don't paginate it? Everybody else in your plan has been courteous enough to put, you know, letters and numbers so we can discuss it. So Boston Properties, get a hold of your subs, and if you see them putting forth a whole section of important stuff, technical stuff, with no way to let us, you know, talk about it, please stop that. That's really crazy. So I just want to say that it was really difficult going through this, trying to make notes and not having an ID on pages. So, okay,
I
will
believe the,
let somebody else go.
Annie,
I
I don't know
believe-
if you got a different set than I did. I've all of my urban stuff has sheet C whatever of 28 in the bottom right corner. And then they've got the title of the drawings in the title block.
If I may interject, if you get past C 14D or C28, it's just dot, 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 dot.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's illegible.
Oh, yeah. The back half of the set, it's some
it
type
is
of printing
illegible.
error.
Okay, and also my written stuff with the proffers, the pages were out of order and they're not paginated. And I understand why they're not. As you have the staff going through and making recommendations, you may have a longer or a shorter section that makes the page roll later or sooner. But dude, this is crazy when it's not in order for us to receive it. And I had to go back through and really shuffle my paper. So I don't know whether my set got dropped on the ground and, you know, put together and clipped, but that was a chore. So I really appreciate getting this early or early enough that I could go through it all. But those were two things that were crazy. So anyway, let's let Amy and William go, and then I'll come back with my actual questions.
Okay, thank you. Amy Andrews.
Thank you very much. In terms of kind of going back to the parking, has there been consideration in the fact that there is, as far as for people who do use the metro, and because if that pedestrian bridge is going to go across, that would be a very convenient place for people wishing to ride the metro to park, that, we would be able to charge people, whether it be working with Metro to use, your Metro cards or a day rate or something like that, given that I'm guessing, the Performing Arts Center and a lot of the public use parking lots are probably going to be more likely used in the evenings or on the weekends when people aren't, let's say, using the Metro to go to work.
Amy, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, I'm just kind of wondering, like, has there been, a consideration of in terms of like knowing that those parking spaces may be very desirable for people wishing to leave their cars to use the Reston Metro because there is no parking at that metro station.
Yeah, so there's no commuter parking at the Reston Town Center Metro Station. The idea there is that this is an urban place where people are walking from their place of work or their residence to use the metro and not having to drive to Reston to then get onto the metro. That was the planning principle. So there won't be any commuter parking within this project for the metro itself. The Performing Arts Center is not going to be required to provide its own parking. We will be constructing the parking required for the Performing Arts Center.
Okay. And then in terms of the expectation or capacity of the Performing Arts Center, I looked and didn't find it or couldn't read as far as what's the expected capacity.
I think the largest performance venue is a 500-seat auditorium.
Okay.
That's from the Grimm and Parker feasibility study. So we just maintained that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Amy. William Pegues.
Sure. I really just wanted to make sure that we were still running on track for urban agriculture on the roofs. Also, I wanted to point out this, with all the strange things going on with microplastics, a study has just been completed that shows that vegetated roofs in general actually remove microplastics from the environment.
Hmm.
I can forward that to anyone that might be interested about it. Because it makes more very interesting. They actually did, there's actually tests, it's not just assumptions, tests that were actually completed. So it's a very interesting thing. But yes, it's great to hear about the urban agriculture, because that's actually coming more and more to the front in Fairfax County with the Fairfax Urban Agricultural Work Group. So that's good to hear, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I am not familiar with that, but Uptop Acres, as we talked about last time, is still a preferred partner of ours, working in the town center on multiple buildings. So it's been a great partnership.
Great.
Anything else?
No, that's it. We're good.
Great. Thank you, William. Okay, I believe back to you, Tammy.
Okay, one more item of presentation on our RPZ questionnaire. There is some text that's been cut off in the boxes. So your answers are there, but they're not available to us. So please, in the future, please be sure that all the text is visible within those boxes. You have to enlarge the box, please do so that we can actually see the complete answer. Okay, according to the questionnaire, you're doing 1,400 more residential units. Where are the amenities to support them? And the 500 DUs you've already built in the phase one. Like Reston Town Center has no playing fields. They have the ice skating rink and they have the lawn between the art gallery and Passion Fish. But other than that, there are no parks available for those people. Yet all of the members of the new Gateway Next and RTC are RTCA members, which precludes RA membership and any, dues being paid to RA for pathways and nearby fields and pools. I didn't, of course, market conditions preclude you from telling us what you're in the multifamily buildings. What are your expectations of 1, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom studio? Do you know what that mix is? Are you willing to look that up?
Well, we're not hiding anything. We just haven't totally determined what that will be yet. As we go through the design process, we will. I can tell you what the unit mix is at Skymark, which is the building on Block D. And I'm doing this from memory, so it'll be a little fuzzy. But about 50% of our units are 1 bedrooms. About 33% of the units are 2 bedrooms. 10%, I'm sorry, 33% are studio, 10% are 2 bedroom, and then whatever that residual percentage is, 3 or 4% are 3 bedrooms.
Okay, so my point in asking these questions is the units are shrinking in size. And when you shrink a person's living area, what do they want to do? They want to get out of the small confined apartment and get it outside to recreate. Where are they doing that? And another interesting thing is y'all have included conveniently the 2 Discovery buildings to the east that are not actually going to be redeveloped, but you're using their property, especially the one closest to your project. for a lot, which isn't a lot considering we're talking about maybe 3,000 to 4,000 new people moving in here. That's not a lot of space to have 3 sports courts and whatever. So, and of course, everybody who lives in an apartment, the smaller the unit, the bigger the dog. So, you know, where are the dog parks, etc.? That's a huge concern with the Central Park, Metro Park, East and North, North and South Central Park for dog waste. I don't know. You know, I'm sort of with Lynn about this this amenity, the pack, which God knows when that will be built. By the way, just so the committee knows, Boston Property is giving the land, the lot, not the building. So that building has to be built. And I've got a whole bunch of questions about that because a friend went to the latest Reston Community Center budget meeting and a guy got up who's a governor and gave a big presentation on a different location within Gateway for the PAC, with the comments that this is closer to RTC, people can park in RTC and use RTC restaurants. And I'm going, what? No, this is not what we even thought about. So unfortunately, the governor we have on our committee is absent tonight, so we can't ask him what he knows about that. But that's a whole nother sand in the gears here. But the PAC is not going to be built for years. It's unknown who's even going to run it. So that in your plan, you say if it's not built, there will be a civic park, which is good. And there's, you know, locations for recreation, but it's not a big space. So there's meadow and there's recreation and there's other uses in one map you have in the plan set. But anyway, that's a concern that I have. Do you want to comment on any of that?
Well, so a couple of points I'd make there. With the application, we have over 6 acres of publicly accessible open space. I think it's 6.3 acres. Aaron can correct me if I'm wrong about that. And it's more than that. He's giving me the thumbs up. So I think we have a highly amenitized open space program. The open spaces vary in size, the largest being, if you aggregate all 3 of the areas within the Central Park, that's over 1.5 acres in and of itself. But those parks reduce in size and have a bunch of variety to them to meet different recreational uses, all the way down to a pocket park even that we've labeled, maybe not so creatively.
Pocket parks. Those are not parks. That's landscaping.
Well, but they do have active recreational elements to them.
Yeah, no, Fairfax County would have a fight with you on that because we've had this discussion with Fairfax County.
This has been reviewed by the county and the park authority.
Okay, the PAC parcel, do I understand this correctly, that the PAC parcel will be deeded to the county?
Yes.
So they have that proffer in perpetuity?
Yes, they accepted that proffer under the original zoning approvals.
All right, let's talk about loading, please. One of the worst sins I've seen recently is the UPS, FedEx, Amazon, US Postal Service special delivery vans, trucks, occupying the spaces right in front of the entrance doors to apartment buildings. And they also do it for office buildings. These are often also ADA designated spaces. And if you're ADA, it doesn't make any difference how long the FedEx guy is going to be in there. You don't know. And you can't be idling on a 2-lane road, blocking traffic while you're waiting for a truck to get out of your ADA space. So what is phase 2 taking into account, since you have so many dwelling units in phase 2, that how do we accommodate this? Because I don't think it's going to change. We didn't have this virtual, marketplace before. I don't think it's going away. I think the brick and mortar stores are a little bit coming back, but we're never going to get back to where people do brick and mortar. So the delivery system is really important. What accommodation do you have for that?
Yeah, I would say we are totally aligned in that. And the biggest risk there is that, with the fire lane requirements, that's a lot of times where these trucks are parking. So in Reston Town Center and at RTC Next, we employ a 24-hour security service that patrols not only the interior of the buildings off hours, but during the day and at night, they're patrolling all of the exterior. And a lot of their time is focused on making sure that delivery vehicles are in the very large, dare I say, posh loading docks that we provide, with turning movements for 18-wheelers, et cetera, as evidenced in phase 1. So that's a focus that we have, and making sure that fire lanes aren't blocked or handicap parking spaces are not being used by folks that shouldn't be using them is a lot of what they spend their day doing.
Okay, so in front of entrances to buildings on your public streets, you're counting on your bumblebee people to come along and have a problem with them, give them grief?
So we do have that exterior security patrol.
Okay. So am I led to believe that you have FedEx and Amazon and UPS slots in your loading zones within the building?
I mean, we don't reserve loading spaces in our loading docks, but that's where those vehicles are supposed to be.
Because you made a big point of residential doesn't have the need for loading docks. So there will be 6 or 7 within this whole phase 2. So that's why I'm saying, are you sure you've got capacity? Because I live on a residential street cul-de-sac, and I bet I have 15 of these guys going back and forth, multiple FedEx, multiple UPS every single day. It's crazy the amount. And I'm a single family resident. So
We have a loading dock in every one of the buildings. And in our residential buildings, we provide package rooms specifically to manage the number of packages that come in each day.
okay, well, I'm skeptical. I just have to say that out loud. Okay. Let's go to the lead, silver, gold. So non-residential, what are you planning for residential? I know non-residential is silver, and if they want to go for gold, they're not required to provide a green escrow. Why wouldn't for non-residential, why wouldn't they just say we're going for that, so they didn't have to do the gold certification, even if they intended to be gold? I mean, I may not be sophisticated enough to know what, documentation is needed to apply for gold to be sure this fraud doesn't happen. But so many crazy things are happening, one of which is your whole Fairfax County, this whole 100-page plus plan set is based on really very lengthy rules and requirements. And yet we have a federal government that's crossing off environmental stuff and every other thing that we've depended on for decades. So I'm really nervous about that. As a committee, we're okaying this plan, but do we really understand if you're going to be going for the top of the flight environmental and this gold, silver lead on non-residential seems like it's a, maybe you can talk to that. And then also the requirements for environmentally sufficient residential.
So with this application, we are not proposing any changes to our green building certificate. So I mentioned this is a relatively limited application or number of changes relative to the original zoning approvals. The green building proffers are carrying forward. You are correct that on a non-residential building, the obligation is LEED silver. If you demonstrate sufficiently to the county during your permitting process that you are on track to earn LEED gold or higher, then you do not have to post the green building escrow. That is really intended to just ensure that you earn a LEED silver accreditation. So that is carrying forward all of the what I'll tell you, as after having built all of phase one, is that all of the non-residential buildings in phase one earned a LEED gold certification.
Good. And, I will say, I worked on the environmental chapter for the latest master plan. And I'm real sensitive to this stuff because now it's being completely destroyed by our national things. So being nervous is being smart, in my opinion. And Looney has always said, Tammy, we're not going to build crap. You can't rent and sell space in buildings if it isn't well done, etc. And,
He's right.
Okay, let's go to EV requirements. We're still at 2% required and only 5% prepped for EVs. What?
So here's what I'll say about that. We have 13,000 parking spaces in Reston Town Center. And that includes one of the largest auto manufacturers in the world, North American headquarters. With all of that being said, we have less than 1% of our spaces as EV ready spaces or electric vehicle enabled spaces. There is not a market for the number of electric vehicle chargers that would support a 10% commitment to EV ready spaces. And if there was a market, we would build them. They are minor profit centers. They don't generate a lot of revenue, but if there was demand for them, we would build them. And with 13,000 parking spaces in supply, we feel like we've got a pretty good handle on what that market is. It doesn't preclude us from building that many in the future. But what I will say is that EV chargers are considered a continuously on electronic device from the National Electric Code perspective. And what that means is that you have to design your transformers, you have to design your switch gear, you have to design your electrical panels in order for those devices to be continuously on. And in order to provide an EV ready space, I have to upsize all of my transformers, all of my switchgear, all of my panels, all of my circuitry in order to accommodate a future parking space for which a future EV charger for which there is not demand. And that is real cost. That is real embodied carbon that is going into a new development that's not necessary. And so we're not precluding ourselves from doing it, but what we're saying is that that's where the market is. And no one is more incentivized to provide what the market requires than we are as the landlords. So I know that that is not a typical opinion of other developers that are going through the process, but we feel like we have a lot of data that suggests that, you know, where we are proposing to land is correct. And we've had those conversations with staff. It's something that is still an open issue, but I think they understand our position.
Okay, and I wouldn't think that the office workers would be using the EV, but I sure would think that residents would be using the EV. So,
The percentage is even less on our residential garages.
and that could be that you're doing such small units that you're not attracting a demographic that can afford an EV at this point in time. But that may flip around. And one would freaking hope it does, because having all combustion engines making our climate worse is not a good idea. Parking for the pack, that'll be paid in addition to your ticket for the pack?
Yeah, there'll be a shared parking arrangement set up so that the Performing Arts Center or the county doesn't have to build their own.
Oh, I would think. Okay. You don't know yet how many kids you're expecting out of this phase 2? How many do you have out of phase 1? 500 units. How many kids?
I don't know that number off the top of my head. It is relatively low.
Okay. Well, I would think with the smaller units, it would be. Okay. And I already commented on the inclusion of the Discovery buildings, which they're not even owned by Boston Properties, are they? There's a different owner listed.
For which buildings? I'm sorry.
Discovery buildings.
No, we own those.
You do, and it's just under an LLC that's not.
All of our buildings are held in single purpose entities.
Okay. Tree preservation. This has to be wrong. In one of the item number 44, and I don't even know what this is in my notes, referring to which part of the plan is referring to. Public facilities, I think. A caliper no larger than 2 inches? Is that real?
I think that's the PFM standard. I'm not certain of that.
Okay. I sure
Our
hope,
landscape architect is not on.
yeah, well, I'm sure hoping that's a mistake, because a caliper of 2 is like a twig when you're comparing it to infinity of outside. So that's really disturbing. What is the accurate population expected? There are so many different figures given here that I calculated it once at slightly over 3,000, and then at the end, drawing C2, there it came up to 3910 population is using the multiplier of 2.1 for a multifamily unit. Would you know what the population expected is?
Yeah, the chart on the left does calculate that. It's 2,770.
Say it again, 2,270 or
2,770.
770. Okay. That's what you, okay. That's a lot of people, new people in addition. Well, are you counting the 540 from phase 1, or is this just phase 2?
Yes. That
So total.
Tom, correct me. I believe that's total. Yeah, I think it is.
I think it's total minus the bonus.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, that doesn't include
Yeah.
the WDU bonus units.
Okay, well, let's count the WDU because ghosts don't live in those bonus units.
Well, it's
So I guess we have to add 16% onto that. Alrighty. Publicly accessible open space. This page indicates Discovery buildings I mentioned that before, a huge percentage of your open space, huge to me, and that there's, I'm not counting pocket parks and things where people can't get out and actually move around, but I'm real concerned about this density of population being put in a prime area of Reston and not sufficient rec space given for those people. Alrighty, I'm ending. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. David and or Sue, you're next.
Yes, I have three quick comments or questions. First, stormwater. It's addressing William's question about roof agriculture. And I look back in my April notes from our meeting with you, and you stated that 0.72 of all stormwater runoff would be contained on site. And this would be a combination of vegetated roofs, rainwater harvesting, and urban bioretention. So I just wanted to have you confirm that. Can you confirm that 0.72 commitment for containment?
yes.
Okay. And then also for people who had stormwater concerns, I know David and I drove over to the detention pond, which is a couple blocks to the west of your site, and parked on Dorrance Court, walked to it, took a few pictures, sent those pictures to John and to Tammy, and the detention pond looks more than adequate. I'm not an engineer, but I would entrust the engineers on that one. The second item, on the skywalk, a pedestrian skywalk over Sunset Hills is essential. And so I just want to urge you to make sure that that happens. And I heard you say that you were assuring that it would. And then the third item is parking. I do object to paid parking. Tyson's doesn't charge for parking. And I understand that you're going to control so there's no commuter parking, but please find a way to do no pay parking. Even if there's a 2 to 3 hour limit, there must be a way that Boston Properties can do no pay parking. That's all.
Thank you, Sue. Does David have comments as well?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, thank you. Looks like William has his hand up again. William?
Yes, I just wanted to say that I posted the link to that study about microplastics and vegetated roofs, removing them in the chat. It's quite a lengthy link, but it takes you to the Anthropocene magazine website.
Thank you, sir. So I have a thought, Matt. Can you speak to any proffers relating to replacing landscaping that dies?
You mean like after establishment?
Yes, sir.
Aaron, I'll bet this. I'm going to think out loud and you can virtually kick me under the table if this isn't right, but I don't know that a proffer would be necessary for that, because plants that are shown on our zoning application that are no longer there would make us out of compliance with the zoning plan. So we would have an obligation to replace those plants, or we'd have to amend the zoning plans.
Yeah, that's right, Matt. So We do have some obligations in our proffers, and I'll have to skim through them real quick, but I think they try to deal with like the gap scenarios, like before, the plan might be off bond or something like that, where we would have to replace them. But generally speaking, yeah, once a plan is approved and, street trees or general landscaping is constructed and planted, if those trees and shrubs are shown on the plan set and it's shown to not be in compliance. When I used to work for the county, I had many zoning enforcement cases just like this, frankly, where we would be going out to sites where shrubs weren't taken care of or trees had died, and we'd talk to the property owner and say, you need to replant these. And that would be the same type of situation that would occur to Matt and BXP outside of any commitments for kind of a gap period with the proffers.
So, again, I think BXP does a great job at Reston Town Center maintaining your landscaping, quite honestly. But there's some other developments in Reston where there's plants, trees dying, and they've been dead for a long time, and no one's doing anything about it. And they already got approval for far less landscaping than probably should have been completed. And I'd like to see, and I know John Carter's on the call this evening. I'd like to see us have some type of language, and I'd certainly any motions that we make tonight, I would appeal to whoever makes that motion to include something relating to the replacement of landscaping within a certain time period after it dies, as part of the approval, whether it's 3 or 6 months. And it's really not really related to how I think you're going to operate, but really trying to set a precedent for others, because not everyone operates at the same level as you all are. So I'll just throw that out there. And I agree with Tammy's comment that I know the county doesn't like to plant mature trees because they have less chance of surviving, but man, some of the little ones that people have been planting are they're going to take 100 years to develop, it seems like. Anyway, so I'd like to see if there is a motion, if someone could please include something on the planning commission and staff looking at providing stronger language for dead plant replacement. Thank you. David, your hand is still up, or Sue? I guess Sue, your hand is still up. Are you trying to go again, or are you good? Okay. And I keep saying David because that's what's listed, but sorry, Sue, I know you're there too. Lynn, looks like you have your hand up again.
Yes, I do, John. So my question actually is for you. Are you looking for one of the committee members to make a motion regarding an added proffer regarding dead landscaping replacement?
Yes, if someone makes a motion regarding this particular application, I'm asking that person, whoever that might be, to include something on replacing dead landscaping at a level that's not currently being facilitated by the current zoning through the county. So if something dies, they need to replace it within 3 to 6 months or something like that.
So it looks like Tammy, your hand, I'm sorry, forgive me for hijacking your agenda, John, but.
No, that's
like
okay.
We have to ask John if he has any comments before anybody makes motions.
Yeah, good comment. John, do you have thoughts?
I've got a couple. One thing about the trees, we're in a stage in Fairfax County where we show trees on plans and we don't get them. And you look at the Route 7 completion, $300 million with not one tree. And you look at the Wegmans site, I don't know how, but all the trees were eliminated there. Boston Properties does a great job with that. I was wondering from Boston Properties perspective, is there a street tree problem along Sunrise Valley Drive?
Sunset Hills Road.
Those are the kind of trees that get eliminated.
Are you talking about the trees between the curb, the road curb and the sidewalk?
Yes.
So we
Maybe
do
not
have a
there.
commitment to plant them in the landscape amenity panel. It's along Sunset Hills Road, not Sunrise Valley Drive, just as a
Right,
point of
right.
clarification.
Right.
And in working with staff, we actually have a double row of trees, which
Yes.
is, Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, supportive of the Reston specific streetscape that's in the comprehensive plan. So we do have those street trees planned here.
Okay, it's one, but this is one thing getting planned, one thing, another is to get them in. So, yeah, you've been working with VDOT on that stretch, so I hope they're not eliminating those at this time. And maybe you don't know at this point, but that's a
Well,
concern. Now,
we have to plant them in order to pass our final site inspections. So they'll be planted.
okay. Does the street lights, do you have a concern about the street lights? Because we, if you remember, I was instrumental in that, getting any street lights at all. So are those going in?
Those
This
are
stage, just like
and
the
are
first?
in along phase one.
Okay, and then for the private streets, it's just the same streetscape, lights and trees along there. Okay,
Yes.
my next question is the width of the linear park. Is it the same in this phase as it was in the first time go round?
By linear park, you mean the central park?
Yes.
Yes.
And then what does the ground floor look like around along Sunset Hills? Because you have a slope there, and stage one, it has that the stone wall. But what will this be like? And basically, is there a possibility of bringing some of the retail at least down at the corners, so that's a little more lively than a stone wall?
So you're right. There are grade changes along Sunset Hills Road, much like we faced in phase one. We do have a ground floor plan in our application. Frankly, we don't think that a lot of retail uses are going to
No.
survive along Sunset Hills Road.
Yeah.
That is a major vehicular roadway that VDOT would love to widen if given sort of
Yes.
free rein here. So that would only exacerbate the issue. What I will tell you is that I think one of the things that will serve Sunset Hills Road well from a pedestrian perspective is the Metro Park, the aerial bridge connecting into the metro station, that pavilion structure there. While not along Sunset Hills Road, but at the location where you would come down from that Metro Pavilion is intended to be like a retail cafe on the corner of Block G1. It'll be more north facing, frankly, but it will be west facing as well. And there will be, connectivity to Sunset Hills Road at that location. So I do think that will help with the pedestrian environment there. And then we also have at the East Park, which is as you're working your way towards Reston Parkway,
Right.
an activated area where sport courts and other recreational uses will be located. To hopefully make that's where that dry pond is now. But to activate that area in a way that will be more pedestrian friendly too.
So I guess I think that's a good answer. So the grade is stepping up from phase one, so there'll be less parking or less stone wall or however that's being finished there. Am I perceiving that right? I'm not sure I could tell by the elevations.
There will still be structured parking above grade
But
in
there'll be
order
less.
there's a lot of above grade parking as well. I mean, even at the minimums, given the density on site, there's still a decent amount of parking. I don't want to say something that isn't truthful.
And does that get finished then, like
Yes.
stage one or something similar?
Yeah, Caroline,
Okay.
do you want to speak to any of that?
I was just basically going to say what you said. There's an elevation on sheet A214 that illustrates what the grade change looks like. And then
Yeah.
you can get a character of what that shielded parking levels will look like above the base that you spoke to.
Okay, now my last question, just so we can do the best we can with what we have to work with, the park. Could you pin up the area, I'll call it the expansion along the WNOD trail? Because you remember in stage one, we were trying to finish that area, which is, it's not huge, but it is, I think you had a picture of that earlier, but it didn't stay up very long.
Yeah, or Aaron, do you want to maybe bring up that open space character sheet, which has the most detail?
I think it's sheet L 3.04.
Yeah, give me 1 second. My screen just disappeared. Sorry, everybody.
Of course.
I mean, the idea is that you do have some, it might not be a lot, but we have some recreation along there. And the
Yes.
WNOD trail will be finished, so to speak. I know there's a grade change there too.
Yeah, there's
but-
and the grade change in phase two from sort of our park space to the trail itself is much greater.
Yes.
And as you know, John, the MVRPA wants to limit the at-grade connections to the park for safety reasons. And so the
Yes.
at-grade connection was provided in the first
Yes.
phase of the project. The bridge
Right.
also is constructed. And then that park widens as you head further
Yes.
to the east. So
Yeah.
where there is the landing for the accessible ramp that takes you up to the existing pedestrian bridge structure, there will be fitness center or fitness uses along that trail, along that park, as well as several dog parks.
There you go. That's what I was after. Dog park opportunities as well as just the visualization. I think you had a blow up of just that little space, that space in phase two. But
yeah,
the main point is it finished? Is yeah, there it is. That's the one.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
what's
it'll be finished all the way to the property line.
Yes, that's good. Now the street trees. I've forgotten what was done in phase one. Is Sasaki working on this too?
They are not. OJB is the landscape architect. You know, Alan Ward has stepped back somewhat from the day-to-day activities at Sasaki as a principal there, and we think one of the hallmarks of the successful design of the first phase was to utilize a number of different design firms. And so that was part of the reason why we brought Gensler in from a master planning perspective for phase two, and also why we brought OJB in from a landscape perspective to just provide some, sort of a diverse set of ideas.
Well, I don't remember what we did on phase one, but I would suggest 3 to 3.5 inch caliper for the street trees along Sunset Hills Road.
We can double check that.
Yeah. And those are my comments.
Thank you, John. That's great comments.
September 17th. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, John. That was excellent, as always. And it looks like, Sue, you have your hand up again?
It's actually me.
Okay.
Before anybody creates a motion, I think we should check in with Mark Goldberg Foss and see if there's any other people who have tuned in who either have a question or comment.
Right. Citizens are always welcome to comment or ask questions.
If I could just interrupt for one quick second. John, I did just check the planting, and all of the streets proposed in the public right of way are 3-inch caliber.
There you go. I thought that was the case, but I didn't remember for sure. Good.
That's great. I don't see any members of the public on the meeting currently.
Nor do I, John. I don't see anyone either.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tammy.
Quickly, the plan set, I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, had any utility plans worked in. Is that correct? That the plans that we were given did not have underground utility locations?
We do
And the
not have utility plan, but we do have a utility proffer.
Okay, so the reason I'm asking this um, is in regard to street trees and the way they're planted with the different soil compaction and ways that we try to keep those street trees alive. And we don't have the utility plan to know where exactly electrical is running through phase 2. But thank heaven that the caliper, at least on Sunset Hills, is 3. So it's, and I know, John, I think you complimented Boston Properties on phase 1 of this as doing a good job with the,
Yes.
okay. The other thing that came up when John was talking about this park adjacent to the WNOD and the reference to the huge, the WNOD is set down and there's a steep hill going up to where, if I'm following correctly, the dog parks and the fitness rec area. Is that correct? Okay, the grade change is big there. So is that fenced?
Dog parks will all be fenced, yes.
Of course, dog parks are going to be fenced, but are the other areas fenced? Because Northern Virginia doesn't want people accessing the trails except at very specific places. Is Boston Properties fitness area, is that going to be fenced off?
That's still to be determined.
On the crest of the hill, is there a fence? And the reason I'm asking that is people let their dogs off leash. And if they're going to a dog park and the dog either gets out of the park or is off leash before they get there, and run down onto that path, I'm just saying that's the best place for a dog park because it's away from, well, I don't know if it's the best place for the residents to have dogs barking right outside their building, but at least it's not in the prime commercial areas. So I'm just asking about a fence at the crest of that hill.
Yeah, the any fence for the non-dog park areas of the park spaces would be determined at the site plan level. And frankly, in coordination with the MVRPA too.
Okay, so we don't know that answer yet. Okay, thank you, Matt. I appreciate your.
And Dom texted me too, Tammy, just so there are wet utilities shown on C9 and C10. I forgot about that. I was thinking only dry utilities when you mentioned that.
So that's the sewer water stuff.
That's right.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. That was a great discussion by all. Are there any further comments or questions? All right, I don't see any more hands up. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll take a stab at it. I would recommend approval of the plan to include advanced and expanded policy for tree or shrub replacement, and to include a 0.2 stormwater containment commitment, a pedestrian skywalk, and no paid parking.
And would that be a 30-day replacement plan?
The advanced expanded policy would be reworked or rewritten, just revised to be better.
Replacement is forever. It's going to be on the plan. It stays forever.
So what word would you like instead of advanced and expanded policy? I'm happy to
definite replacement.
To include a definitive policy, could be either way though, definitive, to include an expanded, to include a advanced tree expert policy for replacement.
Or
Which
dead plant replacement policy?
But don't we need to have a time frame, like within 30 days or 60 days?
Forever.
Well, there is a planting season that has to be considered. So Fairfax County won't let you plant from basically October to April.
Yeah.
Good point.
Won't let you plant
Well,
from October
So-
to April.
That's when
I
you
have a
would plant.
practical question about this. Who would be enforcing this extra special planting requirement? Wouldn't it be the same people who are enforcing the current planting requirement? And if we're not pleased that the current enforcement is sufficient, why would we expect enforcement to be different with different language?
Well, I think what we're hoping is John can work with staff and the planning commission to change that through enforcement, but also providing a little more teeth in our current and future approvals is the idea.
So,
So-
I mean, just to play the devil's advocate here, it sounds to me like we're placing a particularly higher standard on a particular development as opposed to saying, shouldn't we just enforce the rules that we already have across the board?
Well,
But
I think
what are the
purpose-
current rules? Does anybody know? Like, do they have just, you have 4 years, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. But like, do you have just like a year or two to replace dead trees? I think, Jeremy, I think the thing we're trying to do is to put a time limit on actually replacing the trees, even though, like, I live in my HOA, we replace dead
I don't-
trees all the time.
I don't think
Forever.
that's our place. I don't think that's our place as the committee. We're not an enforcement branch, and we're not a legislative branch. The county already has laws and rules about what should be planted and when things should be replaced. And the county
but
is
I think we're trying to
responsible
make
for
the proffers
enforcing those.
better.
So
We're
I
trying
think
to improve the proffers for this application.
And I
Right.
think the proffers are what was already approved.
They haven't been
so.
approved.
John, I know you were trying to say something a minute ago. Do you want to?
Well, I was thinking, I think a proffer, if you want to do that, might be appropriate. I think it is important to Boston Properties. It certainly is important to Reston. These are a little bit different because, spaces are small. So when a tree dies, it has a big impact. So the proffer, wouldn't it simply say that whatever is shown on the plan will remain in perpetuity?
Isn't that already the requirement?
Well, it might be, but this would make it a proffer. So it would be easy, if it's already required, then it would be easy to do a proffer that would reinforce it.
Yeah,
So
I like that.
It sounds to
I
me
like
like
that.
it sounds like we're trying to turn what's already a law into a proffer in addition to the law.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you're making it important because these are important streets, Sunset Hills and the private streets that make this thing work are important. That may be among the most important in Reston.
Yes.
What I heard was a concern about timing of replacement. So would to include 60 to 90 day dead tree or shrub replacement.
Well, there's this.
Or
season
6 months.
issue, so maybe you add something
6
about
months.
in season or something like that.
Within the planting season.
Would 3
Yeah.
to 6 months do it? Or would you prefer season?
Season.
I think the season would be better.
Yeah.
To include.
And I see Amy and William have their hands up, and Tammy, maybe. Amy, did you have something you want to add?
I just would really caution on the element of not charging for parking. I don't know how that is possible, given its location next to the metro. You're basically going to entice free parking next to the metro. And if you're already charging parking for people going to Cooper's Hawk across the street in phase 1 in Reston Town Center, then are we just attracting people to go to phase 2 because they don't have to pay for parking there and not to go to those other locations? We just have to be consistent, whether or not we wish there was not charge for parking. It's too
Completely
popular
agree.
everywhere else.
Completely agree.
I think all of the situations that were just mentioned, Tyson's has managed to find a way to deal with that, and I think.
And Tyson's is 30 minutes away for people to choose Tyson's over Reston Town Center if parking is more important. But if we're trying to decide between, like I said, then we would have to revisit not having parking charged in so many other places nearby.
I'm bringing up a subject that I feel I represent the Reston community on, and they largely do not want paid parking. And I think you would have much more business there now and in the future with no paid parking.
I have to concur with that thinking.
William.
On the tree planting season, Fairfax County last year changed the dates. Tree planting now is from October 1 through May 31st, all the way
I
through.
had it backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I realized after I said that.
But that was a big change because it used to go from like September to December, and then it paused and then had a spring period. So
Thank you for clarifying that. And I have a question too. I agree with what Amy said, actually. I'm not even sure. Obviously, we're just a recommending, body here, but I'm not even sure we can really comment on the paid parking. But you said the 0.2 inches of stormwater. Can you clarify what you meant there, Sue?
No, it's 0.72 at our April meeting. They committed to 0.72 stormwater containment. I know this evening a lot has been talked about what is the difference between containment and detention, and they committed to 0.72 stormwater containment, which is something we've been striving toward as a committee. And this containment was a combination of vegetated roofs, rainwater harvesting, and urban bioretention on site. In addition to that is the detention to the west, a detention pond.
Gotcha. Okay. I thought I heard you say 0.2 before, so 0.72. And I think the right word would be, or the most correct professional term would be retainment.
Yes.
No, containment.
No, it's retention and detention.
Yeah.
Is the two terms. So containment is retention.
They used the term containment in April.
Well, technically that's very incorrect. It actually makes better sense because a lot of people get the two terms confused, but.
Okay, so you'd like me to substitute retainment?
Yes.
Yes.
And I like most of the motion. I'm not sure that I can personally vote yes for the parking issue. I can vote yes for everything else. Just putting it out there.
Yeah, I think people. Go ahead. I think
I don't disagree. I like free parking too.
Sure.
But I don't know that we can comment on that particular issue. I don't know.
Well, I heard many comments this evening about how, there's plenty of parking over there. I think there would be more parking filled if it was no paid parking. And I think that would benefit all of the businesses and that are at Town Center.
Just to clarify on the paid parking, parking is free in Reston and at RTC Next after 5 p.m. every day.
Right.
It's free on weekends, it's free on major holidays, and the first hour all the time is free.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever paid for parking in Reston Town Center, to be honest. I go there quite a bit, and every time I've been there, it's been during a time that's free. I mean, I personally don't do a lot of shopping during business hours, but I suppose there are people that do.
Sue, would you be open to a friendly amendment to encourage them to limit the amount of paid parking or something like that?
I'm not sure about the wording on that. Encourage, yeah.
Yeah.
I would rather almost leave it out than do that. If the majority of people, if that's a problem, if that one thing is a problem, I will take it out, or I can leave it in and have my recommendation be voted down and keep
Sure.
it in. I do think it's important.
Still,
but
if I can just add some context to this issue,
Mhm.
you know, I have gone to Reston Town Center to go pick up something from Sephora, which is a cosmetics company that
Right.
a lot of the ladies may go to. And I have been warned that if I park on the street, that my car will be booted if I don't pay for parking during the day. And I find that, and I just find it infuriating that I cannot go to a retail establishment for 20 minutes without a threat of getting booted for parking on the street.
Or you just pay your parking.
Well,
No.
can I make a point?
Yes,
The
please.
Reston Town Center has Colonial parking. And that app tracks you. It's not just an app for parking. They track you. So
I will
I'm
not
not
go.
putting
I will
that
not go.
app on my phone. And a lot of people aren't putting it on their phone because they refuse to be tracked. So our financial institution is there. We rarely can go there because they close at 5 when the free parking picks up. So free parking or an hour free or whatever, when you have to have an app that tracks you is a problem. Now, if Boston Properties is going to make Colonial, and I don't think they can make Colonial because they have a contract with them. Colonial makes money out of tracking people. Hello, it's not just paid parking. It's you can pay for parking, no big deal, you say, but then you're also agreeing to be tracked. And I'm
Right,
not
and we're talking about RTC Next. We're not talking about, yeah.
No, I understand.
Sure.
It will Next not have Colonial be their manager of this stuff and have an app that doesn't track? And do they swear they won't?
So just a couple of points. You do not have to pay for parking in Reston Town Center through the app. Even if you do, you can pay for parking without turning location services on. There's only a specific feature that the app provides that requires location services to be turned on. It doesn't have anything to do with the financial aspect of that application. That app is, to Lynn's point, not in place at RTC Next. We are using a more traditional gated paid parking solution there. And that's because it was planned that way from the very beginning. Unclear, to my earlier point, what the parking payment platform will be at RTC Next Phase 2, but right now in Phase 1, we are not using that app.
I have a question for John Carter. John, do you have any thoughts or recommendations to us on this matter at all?
Well, one thing about the parking, so it would only apply to phase 2. So that seems odd. Phase 1 has paid parking. So I don't know what to do with the parking. Everybody's struggling with it.
Yeah, I think we could
But
all
it
agree
would-
with that.
It'll only be for these buildings in phase two. So it wouldn't be same to the east or the west or the north.
Also, for what it's worth, if you're going to not want to be tracked, all you have to do is go into your settings and click never on Park RTC, and you don't get tracked.
Well, you can pay at the kiosk. There's a kiosk in particularly the purple lot where you can just pay. You don't have to use the app.
All right. Any other comments? Any other comments? I guess, Sue, based on everything you've heard, do you want to sort of recap on what you're willing to put in your motion?
Yeah, I'll try it again.
Sorry.
I recommend approval to include point 0.72 commitment to stormwater retention, pedestrian skywalk, a 6-month seasonal dead tree shrub replacement, and no paid parking or further reduction in paid parking hours.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Motion by Sue, seconded by Lynn. All in favor, let's raise our hands. Trying to
You
raise
want
my
virtual hands or real hands?
hand. Virtual hands, I think, is the way we've been doing it. Rob established that a while ago. Oh, there we go. All right, everyone have your votes in.
It's both of us. Tell them it's
John.
Oh,
that's
sorry, yeah.
for us.
2 for you. Okay, so that looks like, oh, mine went down for some reason. Looks like 7-4. Am I counting that correctly? I'm going to go to page 2 real quick. Okay, no. Okay. Looks like we have 7-4. All right, put your hands down. And all opposed? We have 4 against. So 7-4, the motion passes. Anybody recusing themselves or abstaining? Okay, I believe the motion passes 7-4. Lynn, can you confirm that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, congratulations, and thank you for all of your time this evening, and good luck at Planning Commission.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Our